This is going to be a more personal one. I don't even know if I call it self-help. If anything, it felt like a kind of embodied practice. Something that worked on my body before my mind had time to explain it. If you had told me at the beginning of Ramadan that food wouldn't have been the hardest part, I probably wouldn't have believed you, because you don't eat during the day, not even water. Now, you can eat, just at very specific times, namely the nighttime. Or as the last 10 days are called,
the night of power.
Every day for a month, I had to wake up a couple hours before sunrise in order to eat. What's called sahur. You eat, you hydrate, and that's it. Once the sun's up, nothing until sunset. Initially, the hardest part wasn't the fasting, though the hunger headaches were brutal. It was waking up in the dark and forcing myself to eat. I hadn't done that since I was a kid. Half awake, eating lukewarm eggs before school with the news on in the background. I am a millennial after all. My sahur was pretty consistent. 3 eggs, a couple of dates, peanut butter on toast, unsalted cashews, water, and coffee. It worked, but by the end, I started to realize that the coffee wasn't helping. If anything, it made the dehydration throughout the day worse. If I do this again, inshallah, I'd probably cut out coffee entirely by the last 2 weeks. Because if you don't, then you kind of have to make up for it in water. So that's the trade-off. But food wasn't the real shift. Stimulation was. Before Ramadan, I was running on something all day. 4 to 6 cups of coffee, Diet Coke, Kratom 3 times a day, weed at night, sometimes more than that, oftentimes more than that, energy drinks a couple times per week. There was no point during the day or night where I wasn't being carried by something chemically. Kratom during the day, weed at night. That was normal, and during Ramadan, that structure broke. Not all at once. I didn't go cold turkey on everything right away. That would have been a fool's errand. But the fasting did force a kind of boundary that I wasn't used to. Because once sahur ended, that was it. Nothing in all day. And slowly things started to fall away. The kratom went first, a habit I had for 6 years. I barely noticed. Weed was harder. That was because that was the one I actually looked forward to. It was like a ritual. It made the day feel more manageable. Like, no matter how rough or flat the day felt, I had something at the end of it. Something to look forward to. Sleep was the thing I was the most anxious about. I heard it could get rough, and it definitely did. Fragmented sleep, weird dreams, waking up randomly in the middle of the night, and not being able to fall back asleep. But it wasn't unbearable. By the last 2 weeks, I was off both. And I think I expected something to replace that. Some kind of clarity that felt good. Euphoric like how the weed made me feel. Some spiritual high. You could call it transcendence. Something to make it all make sense. That didn't happen. What happened was much more quieter and, kind of boring. I talked less. I reacted less. I felt less urgency to jump on things immediately. No euphoria, no breakthrough moment. Just a kind of flat, steady clarity. And I don't think I realized how much of my normal state day-to-day was being managed chemically until it wasn't there anymore. The other thing I didn't expect was the structure. Because you don't just fast, you stop. Multiple times a day. Prayer, technically. But even if you strip it down, it's an interruption. A fixed point where whatever you're doing during the day gets cut off. Before Ramadan, my instinct, especially with work and content creation, was to push through. Stay locked in, maintain momentum. But this was the opposite. At certain points, you just stop. No optimizing, no working around it. No exceptions. And over time, that started to feel like less of a disruption and more like a different way of organizing the day. So context probably matters here. I'm in a weird spot. I've been trying to make content work for a while now. Writing, editing, thumbnails, all of it, and it hasn't turned into income. At the same time, I've got a family, a kid, responsibilities. So there's this constant pressure in the background. Keep producing, stay relevant, make something work. And if I'm being honest, a lot of what I was putting out, I didn't fully stand behind. It felt like I was giving something I didn't really want to give, just to keep momentum. Ramadan didn't solve that. It simply interrupted it. There's a bigger way you could frame all of this. People talk about instability, about things not really being secure long term anymore. Work, money, direction. You could call that collapse if you want, or maybe just drift. Some people frame it even bigger than that. New eras, different ages, shifts in how people find meaning. I don't know how much I buy into all of that, because I will be dead, gone, and forgotten, regardless of my success or lack of success. But I do think when things start to feel unstable, people look for structure. Not ideas, not takes, not theory. Something you actually do every day. That's probably where religion comes in. And I wasn't particularly religious going into this. I was mostly an atheist. And I still don't fully know what to make of it. In Islam, you pray 5 times a day. You face Mecca. You go through a physical routine. But what surprised me was that I stopped asking for things. I simply did it for gratitude. Mostly family and health. The basics, not as a way out, but just to acknowledge what was there. I think I expected Ramadan to make me better in a way I already understood. More productive, more focused, more disciplined. But it didn't do that. It made things slower, more structured. And what's harder to admit is that I don't feel the same pull to produce as much anymore. I don't feel the same urgency as before, even though it's still there. It'll probably always be there. And I don't know what to make of that, because everything around me still rewards the opposite, which is speed, output, constant engagement. Hell, I can't tell if what I experience is something that can only be experienced, is something durable, or something that can only be experienced during Ramadan, because Ramadan is only 1 month out of a 12-month cycle. But what I do know is that I thought I needed constant input in order to function. And for a month, I followed a system that worked by limiting it. The system didn't replace it, it just removed it. And something about that changed the way I move through the day. I'm just not sure yet what that change is for. Thanks for watching.